Hey up guys, it's Roy from the Light in the Shadows. Today, wherever you're watching, whatever time, is episode 11. I've got a new guest with me today. It's a friend of a friend, so I don't know if you know about Paolo Piliero. He's jumping on board within Light in the Shadows. The guy's bringing pure energy. He's coming on the socials and he's getting in followers essentially, and we're just creeping up there slowly but surely. So before we get into our guest today, what I want to say to you all is thank you so much for all your following. And I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put on the screen right now, just below is that big red button just here. Subscribe, guys. Get on board with the journey in Light in the Shadows. We're only 11 episodes in, but we were going to go every week solidly until basically men in this country have got their mindsets right and we're not losing anyone. So thank you so much for your support. Get on social media. Our handle is Enlighten the SH1. So yeah, just get on as much as you can. Facebook, share these YouTube videos as much as you can far and wide, because as I say every single week, there'll be always a bloke the other side of your friendship groups that I haven't got that will access this and maybe get something out of it that might change their life. So without further ado, coming to my guest tonight, and I hope you like this one, guys, because I've not really spoke to Ian before and I don't know him at all. So we are literally just going off the cuff today, and we're just going to bring you some insight to his life. But before I do say hello to Ian, I want to say Ian Deakin has played for Mansfield Town as a professional footballer, as a goalkeeper, I believe. And usually goalkeepers are a bit psycho, a bit crazy. So not in the sense that he's losing the plot, but they've got something about them on the pitch. So I'm saying this guy's going to bring it real today, and he's going to share some insights. But he'll be talking about his private life and what goes on in the four walls of his mind. So yeah, you're right, Ian, mate. How you doing?
I'm not bad. How are you?
Sam, mate. Yeah, all right. Can I call you Deaks? Because I think that's what Paolo calls you. Is that all right?
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, Deaks is the normal for me. Yeah.
Ian's way too formal for me, mate. So, so anyway, I've just noticed before we came on air, you told me what you get up to, but I thought that you're a football manager for Long Eaton United, but you're repping up the Stags, which for our viewers who don't know, that's Mansfield Town. So what's going on there?
Yeah, I'm spinning a few plates at the moment. I recently took a job at Mansfield, head of recruitment. So I'll be starting that role properly. Well, I've started it already, but officially in September. But yeah, also managing Long Eaton United in a non-league sense as well. So the Long Eaton thing came about probably a little bit before the Mansfield stuff, but I love football. It's my chance to give a little bit back to the kids, and also, the game that has served me well in the past. So yeah.
Yeah, massively, man. I completely relate to that. And we want to say to the viewers, if you're not into footy, that's cool. But there's a lot of stuff that we're going to share tonight about mental health, about choices, decision making, and ultimately bouncing back from setbacks that Ian Deaks, I'm going to call him now, Deaks has had in his life. So don't think, oh, this is for the football lot, I'm bouncing. No, stick with us, switch off any distractions, get yourself an hour or so and just lock into this right now. So yeah, don't quit on us, because this is where it's going to get down dirty. So, Deaks, mate, you've just said about you're spinning a few plates. I want to ask you about that. That teaches our viewers maybe about the kind of bloke that you are. What makes you make that choice in life where you have to sacrifice stuff to ultimately do these? You've got your marriage, I believe. You've got a partner. You've got your kids. Then you look into work, and then you've got Mansfield, Long Eaton. So what ultimately drives you to make those decisions? Like, I want to hear from that.
To be fair, I think obviously, you're trying to provide for your family first and foremost. But fundamentally, I think, I love the game of football. Everybody's got a different passion. Mine is football. And I think, it's also saved me in the past. It's been my release, when I've struggled, the stuff affected me off the field. That place is where I feel probably the most at home, in terms of I can open up to teammates, not all the time, but, people can recognise when you're struggling. And I think it's served me so well in the past where I've been down, I've gone to football, I've forgotten about it for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I've come back, I'm in a different mood with my family. And also for me, recognising, because I was a bit of not a problem child when I was younger. Someone gave me a chance, So there's a lot of kids in and around from different age groups, even young men, getting into 16 to 18, where you can recognise certain things and certain traits in them where they might be a bit more introverted than usual. And I can help them with that. I've been through it. So for me, that's probably the biggest driver, trying to help these kids in a similar situation to what I've been in. And also the young men as well, and also working with older players in the non-league circuit. With obviously Paolo's a good friend of mine. He plays for me, and I've probably told him stuff I've never told anybody else before, which is usually unlikely. More so in probably the last 5 years, I've opened up a lot more. So yeah, that's probably the biggest driver to help somebody out if I can.
Yeah, mate, it's basically a community, isn't it? And you've got generations that are passing through. And I love how football can cultivate that and basically just get people out the shadows who are struggling, whether it's mentally, financially, even young lads who are like got tough upbringings, as you're probably alluding to yourself. So that's class to hear, man. I was just going to say as well, you mentioned about some of the tough times you've been through. I don't know if you're cool with sharing our viewers, just like anything that is standing out in your memory right now where you're going, oh man, yeah, that was a pretty tough time of life. And not only sharing that, bro, can you kind of like tell our viewers also about what steps you took to get you to a better place? Or you might even still, I don't know, you might be on that journey, but I don't know if you could share anything with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, going back a couple of years, it was quite a bad time for me. And at the time, well, let's go back a little bit further. Let's start from the beginning. I was at Mansfield Town, and my mum was struggling. She was battling cancer, and I was very close to my mum. I struggled with it. I couldn't process it, or I didn't want to process it. So it kind of went to the back of my mind, and I become very agitated. I become very angry. I had no patience. Couldn't focus on anything. At the time, I was at Mansfield Town. So I suffered with injuries a lot. So I was always, not in the team. So that was a demotivator for me. And I just got into a place where I was in a bad place. I ended up leaving Mansfield Town. So going on again where I was going to start from, I was playing probably about a couple of years ago. I kind of just started playing again for a non-league side. My mum was still here at the time, but she deteriorated very rapidly. At the same time, I had a bad knee injury, which went wrong. I had to have 9 operations. It went septic, and I nearly died twice. The second time, I was unresponsive. So, having coming round from that, my mum died just not long before that. So, to process everything, I had probably the things that I cared about the most in the world took away from me in the blink of an eye. And I'll be honest, I went off the rails. I struggled. I was gambling. I was drinking probably more. This is quite hard for me to say because not many people know this about me, to be fair. So me putting it out there hopefully will.
That's nice.
Thank you. So I'm not probably the best person in talking about stuff. I always kind of, crack on kind of mentality, typical bloke mentality, really.
Yeah.
I've grown up in a single parent. My stepdad left when I was younger. My dad died when I was very young. So my mum's always been there. So it was a constant in my life not to have that. And also have football took away from me.
Yeah.
But more so, it was all a cumulative kind of thing. So I ended up having to go. I actually reached out, and I'm a member of the PFA. So for those that don't know football in terms, it's an organisation where you're a member for life once you're a professional footballer. And they look after not just your footballing side, but also your well-being. And I think it's been highlighted a lot more. And I recognised myself that I was struggling. I was in a real bad place, and there was some thoughts going through my head, and and I got a young family, and it was just all getting on top of me. And I decided to reach out to somebody, and I rang the number and spoke to someone, and immediately they said, "Listen, we'll send you to see someone." I had probably 12 sessions talking to somebody I'd never met before. Just that release that I broke down in tears. Just that release that I had. To get it off my chest and talk to somebody and let them know just how I was feeling. And I'd bottled so much up for so long that it got me in a place that I was frightened of. And that's when I decided to make that decision myself. And it took a lot of courage for me to do that.
Big time.
To admit to my partner that I was struggling. And I just had a young girl at the time. So she was struggling as well to try and keep everything together off the field and around me. So, but thankfully, I'm in a much better place today. So
that's class to hear, man. And just before I ask you some more stuff, like, thank you, man, for sharing that. that's massive. And what you said also, and I want to second that, is that people who are watching this, like, I hope that you take something from that, that this guy's taking the balls to speak up on my episode, to share that. So let that empower you and strengthen you to maybe access that help if you're kind of struggling with anything in your life. I'm going to put up throughout this episode a few things for you, signposting you to some people, because like I'm conscious that we haven't got professional footballers potentially tuning in our masses on this episode. So yeah, guys, we're grateful for PFA, but also there's some other people I'm going to put on the screen, as I say, so that you guys can access that help, and it shouldn't cost you now. So yeah, but thank you, bro. What I wanted to ask you as well, on what you just said, something that like highlighted my attention was, you made a decision to reach out. And I this is why I started in Like the Shadows, because I feel like this is the elephant in the room with men, particularly in our generation. And typically it gets to like people in their 40s who take their life, sadly. But there's teenagers, there's people in their 20s and 30s, and even all the way through retirement age that struggle with their mental health. They come to a point in their life where they lack that purpose. So what I want to ask you, Deaks, is that when you made that decision to get that help, can you just help our viewers to kind of like unpack that? Like, what made you like reach out? What were the things that in your mind thought, right, I'm going to reach out for help? Because I know that a lot of blokes massively struggle with this. So yeah, I don't know if you could share anything on that, mate.
Well, to be fair, I sat in the car one night and I just pieced together, I was breaking stuff down, and I'm fortunate enough, I had good people around me, but you always have that stigma of like, oh, I've failed, or I'm not a strong person, or, like I said, people that would know me would never think in a million years that I would be struggling or I would go through that process. And I think having a young child, I had things to fight for, and my own pride probably as well to fight for, because it's hard admitting that you're struggling, and it's hard admitting that you're down there. But I sat there and I thought, well, if I fell down a well, there's nowhere else to go. You can see a light at the top. You just got to try and climb your way up slowly but surely, and you're going to have some slips and falls on the way. But that's the only way I could describe it. And I sat there and I thought, yeah, I've hit the bottom, but there's nowhere else to go now other than back up. There's a small light up there. And that's the kind of analogy I used. And I was sat in the car for 4 hours, 5 hours, maybe longer. I can't remember. Time was going by quicker than I thought it was. And sometimes I sat there and I found myself talking to myself, snap out of it, that kind of stuff. But I think it was stuff that I realised that, materialistic stuff in life, and being in my environment, you're in a high pressure environment anyway, and it's very much like you can't be seen to show weakness.
Yeah, man.
And I just thought, there's more important things in life to me than my big boisterous pride that I had. And it's okay that I may need a helping hand or a foot on the ladder, or help myself get back up to where I need to get. But I think the most important thing is wherever you are in the process or in life, and if you write down there is only one way you can go. You can go sideways. You can never go any further down. So even if you move sideways, it's a positive step to make a positive step up the ladder. And that's what I just kind of reiterated to myself.
Love it, man. Thank you, bro. It's good. It's really good. I was just gonna ask you as well. Something that came into mind as you was talking. I think you might have said it yourself, but when I think about my rock bottoms, when I think about when I feel like utterly helpless and hopeless, and that's been multiple times throughout a whole span of my life. And as men, we don't want to look weak. We don't want people to know what's going on in our head. We're like, no, not a chance. So we bottle it up. I don't know if you felt this, but I feel like shame is pretty powerful in a detrimental way in our minds. I don't know if you want to share with viewers any thoughts on that, about just how shame itself can just constrict us. It
is. It's like being put in a vice. I think, you feel like you've let people down, and the shame of for me, it was probably more so gambling and drinking. The shame of that you bring upon your family, and you know. But the thing is, probably most of your close friends and family already know that you're struggling and suffering, and you know what, you know. So I think it's not to beat yourself up, and just admit to the fact that you've messed up a little bit. There is going to be shame, but you know, with that comes a lot of love on the other side of it from people that, you know, probably sometimes you don't expect it from. You know, to reaching out and just a text message to see if you're all right. Are you all right? Are you doing a phone call? Whatever it may be, and you realise that weight, like I said, it feels like it's just a massive weight off. It just, I can't describe it. It's weird, you know, because like I said, I've never really been through that process before, or suffered that way. So a lot of people suffer in silence, and I think again, in my arena, a lot of players, a lot of coaches, the high pressure, they do suffer in silence. And you know, you see some high profile footballers like Gary Speed and people like that get into a situation that they feel like they've got no way out of. One of my personal friends, you know, going back when I played at Forest, Dale Roberts, he was one of them, you know, and it's very, very difficult to deal with, knowing that, you know, they're your friends and they felt like they couldn't talk to you. And I suppose, the shame side of it is a big thing. But like I said, with the shame, if you do feel shame, it's only for a short time, because like I said, that love and people that support you come from the other side. It's just getting through that door, I think, is the tricky part.
Yeah, I feel like it's not only shame; it's also denial. Like when I'm struggling with stuff, I'm like, no, I'll be all right, it's fine. And like what I do is I ignore the root of the issue. So like it's happened to me this year where a lot of stuff's kicked off, and why I set up in like the shadows, and I push it. Oh yeah, I'm cool. But in denying that, I'm not dealing with the issue. And like what you said, you went to the PFA, you got those 12 sessions, and it was terrifying for you, wasn't it? Because you said it's a geezer I never met in my life before, or sorry, it's a person you've never met in your life before. And I was going to ask you this in terms of like, we'll get on to the accepting denial thing that kind of sprung to my mind, but I want to ask you about talking to a stranger, because everyone's different in life. Everyone's like unique. Everyone gets on different ways. So do you think it's easier to talk to a stranger than about this kind of stuff, like deep, full on, I'm struggling in my mind, than it is to someone you know?
That's a good question. I think for me, it definitely helped me talking to a stranger, which enabled me to talk to people that were close to me, just for the weight of the pressure that I felt under, to get that off my chest. I felt then that, you know, it was okay to talk, you know. So for me, it worked to be talking to somebody that I'd never met before. And I think it's also, you walk in there and you've got no expectations. You know, they don't know your previous history, don't know where you've been, they didn't know I was a footballer in a previous life. They just judge you at who you are when you walk in that room. And I think that's quite important. It's stripped there. So for me, that worked. Yeah, I think that was something that enabled me to then take the next steps going forward to people that I felt, like I said, you do feel like you've let down, and that shame and denial, and it becomes the norm and you put it to the side. It enabled me to get past that.
Yeah, definitely. As I was thinking, as I was asking that question, because a lot goes on in my head as I'm talking to you, that I'm relating. Like my mum got severe breast cancer when I was at uni. Like she like really should have died, and some crazy reason she didn't, which was, you know, just the way it is in my case. But yeah, I relate to you in a lot of ways. It's quite weird, and yet we've never talked before. But I remember, like with me when I was struggling, like I was so fearful about trying to share the feelings that got in my head to people that I care about, because I feel fearful that they're going to be so scared about me that if I do tell them, like in my mind, I'm like, oh no, man, they're going to think like I'm a head case, going to think I need to see like the psychiatrist, I need to be sectioned and all this like crazy stuff. So I'm really reluctant myself in those fears of people I know. So like you, I kind of like to speak to a stranger, because as you say, when you walk through that door, there's like, it's just pure like unknown. There's an anonymous side to it, isn't there, where they don't know nothing unless you tell them, basically. So yeah, I prefer talking to strangers personally, man. It helps me.
Yeah.
Plus, as I say, I don't want to freak people out. If I tell them what goes on in my head, they'll be like, whoa, hold up. So yeah, I maybe need to get better at that as well. So yeah, man. But as I said I think about 5-10 minutes ago about the whole acceptance denial thing. Like, what do you think it is about us blokes? Why? And I know women struggle with things in life too, but the niche within Like Shadows, we specifically focus on men. Like, what do you think it is, man, about just the reason why men deny their struggles, they deny the help, and they don't accept. Like, I guess the point where you got into that call that day, and 4 or 5 hours went by, and you started strategizing, working things out. Like, to me, it sounds like, mate, that you came to a crossroads, and you was like, right, the only way is up. I see the light at the end of the tunnel, but and it was like you started to accept it. But why do you think, man, that blokes just don't accept it and keep denying it?
Uh, it's something I think in men in this country that I think stiff upper lip in the UK. It's always been, it's a bit not old fashioned, but I think that's probably the best way I can describe it. And I think, times are changing, especially probably in the last, probably 5 years, where there's been a lot more awareness about stuff going on.
Yeah.
Different charities out there doing work. I actually, going off tangent, had a glove made for breast cancer awareness, and I had an interview done, and they said, I said, I think it's just as important in men as it is in women, because we need to support our partners as well, what they're going through. And I think, the more awareness that people can raise, and amongst men, probably more so, like you say, because we are typically, we just can't crack on. And I was guilty of that for many years, and then what happens is it becomes the norm. And then it becomes an even bigger failure when you have to admit to yourself that, sometimes it's easy to admit it in the early stages, but you can't always recognize it. So the longer it goes on, sometimes it's like the harder it is to admit to yourself that you're struggling. I think that's the biggest thing. If you can admit it to yourself, you can then kind of move forward and accept the fact that it is okay, and it's not a weakness. It's just, in life, sometimes people have struggles, and you get through most of them, but there's the odd one that you might need a little bit of help with. And I think that's the kind of route we need to go down. It's just, some people struggle to reach out, and I understand why, because I've been there. It took me a while to do that. So I think in men, we've just got that common trait throughout, the ages, where, going back to the war times, where we just crack on no matter how bad it gets.
Yeah.
And I think that's always stayed with us. I'm grateful for the guys that did serve in the war. There was, we wouldn't be in the country we are today in terms of what we're freedom and stuff and liberties. But I think that's kind of stemmed from going back in history. We just tend to crack on.
Yeah. So that saying, I think that keep calm, carry on thing came from, wasn't it, with the war?
Yeah, and I think, I can't imagine what it was like to live in them times and what they went through, to be fair. But I suppose that what choice do you have when you're in the midst of a war, I suppose, but other than to carry on. But I suppose there was a lot of fallout after that. And again, maybe a lot of people suffered after that, and stuff that went on in the war and what they've seen, and didn't have anyone to talk to. And, you still see it today, PTSD, they come out of hostile environments. And I was actually on a webinar with a guy that was talking about, he was in the Marines, and he was really, really insightful to how they deal with the process and stuff. And then they kind of molded it into a footballing sense, and how you deal with failure in football and on the field and off the field. It was really good to listen to that. And I've tried to make a conscious effort to try and get as much knowledge as I can myself now, to help others, that I can influence or I can affect a little bit. And if it's, if I can do anything in any way, that's good for me. So
that's class, man. Have you ever heard of this analogy? It's proper good. You said how you was in a well almost. I heard this thing one time. I hope I get this right. It's like, if you find yourself in a ditch or in a well and you can't get out, and you feel like you're being literally buried alive. So like the soil is coming like on top of you. The saying goes that you don't let the soil fall on top of you to bury you alive, but what you do is you brush it off, and then you stamp on it, so it creates foundation underneath you. So slowly over time, as the buckets of crap, let's put it and call it what it is, comes at you alive. Because that's what sometimes it comes in threes, as they say, but like the buckets of crap is just coming from all directions. It's just relentless. You're like, man, I can't handle this. Well, just brush it off. Just keep acknowledging that it's there, but you've got to take ownership, as I say, within Light the Shadows. I have this acronym called ACT, so it's acknowledge it, comprehend, so have a think about it, but then take action, take ownership. So by taking the action, you're brushing it off and you're stamping on it, and you're stamping on it. You're saying, no, this isn't going to be the definition of me. It's not going to define me, but it's going to be the making of me by overcoming this. So yeah, I remember that actually. It came to my head as you talked about it well. But hey, I want to say to the viewers, like, look, listen, right up, if you are struggling massively, like Deaks and I are sharing this stuff for you, and we're going quite deep, whatever time of day it is for you, we're going deep, and we're doing this because there's going to be someone watching this who is just like, don't know what to do, don't know where to go, and we're saying to you, like, literally, don't give up, keep brushing these things off, as Deaks did, comprehend it, he had to think about it, he strategized, and if that means literally writing it out on a piece of paper, making a journal. Like, I've just started something, I don't know if you saw one of the episodes, Deaks, of this, it's called Mind Journal. And every single day, like, I've been doing it. One, because Paolo has got a forfeit for me if I don't on camera.
Yeah.
But two, I'm doing it to stay accountable for what's going on in my mind. And it's so class because it only takes about 15, 20 minutes. And I do it the last thing in the day. And I'm saying this to Deaks and the viewers right now, is that invest in yourself. Like, literally, he took time to invest in himself and his thoughts. Mind Journal is a great tool for it. It equips you to check in the different feelings that you feel that night. So then you can log them and you can look back at where your head's at. There's also like provocative writings about money, about relationships, about your work, about your desires, your passions, everything. It's all in its class. And I highly recommend it already. But that's helping me. And I say it to you, Deaks, like, I've literally, for the first time today, I've looked through all the different pages and I've been doing all right. But what it's provoked a couple of things in my life where I'm like, shoot, like, I need to go do something about it. And I'll share it with the viewers to be vulnerable, and to you, because you've been like proper brave, open up about your struggles. But my one was, it asked me this provocative question. It says, remember any time this year where you had the most fun? And I was like, oh my days. All right, 2020 has been crap, but I've had some positive experiences. And I sat there for minutes and minutes, literally thinking through the year like this. And I go, right, I've had a handful of positive experiences, but one that proper stands out, that's like the most fun I've ever had, like this year. I was like, no. And I sat there, I was like, well, that's not good. But I didn't have a pity party. I wrote, we'll go and create one.
Yeah.
So it's my birthday in a few weeks. So me and my missus, we're going to, we don't even know, but we're going to go somewhere in the UK. We're just going on a 4-day trip somewhere. So yeah, that's my spiel.
No, to be fair, mate, you're right. And what you said of taking ownership and accountability, I think that's two massive things. And if you can do that and own what, your decision making and what you need to do to get yourself in a position where you feel like you can move forward, I think acceptance is part of that. But ownership and accountability are massive in terms of, you mentioned stuff about, all the different finite, anything that can tip you over the edge. I think that you do, write stuff down, talk to yourself in the car. I do. Everyone thinks I'm a bit nuts, but I do.
It's all coming out now, mate.
Yeah, I'll be at the traffic lights and I'll be talking and, and I'm not even realising I'm doing it. I'm just doing it to like, right, today I need to do this and I need to do that. And all right, you feel a bit crap today, but you've got this to do. And when you get home, you promised a little and you're going to take it to the park. And just going through my day and planning it and taking ownership of what I'm doing, even when I wake up sometimes and I feel a bit shit. But I think you made a good point. Sorry for the language, by the way.
You're being real, it's fine.
So, slipped out that one, did. Apologies. I think at night time is probably the worst time when people lie in bed and they think about stuff. And I was one of them. I've been awake, 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, and I struggled with the passing of my mum. It was a big thing for me. And I think I've just felt like I've kind of got to a point now where I can accept it. And I think I still wake up at night thinking about her and stuff like that. And it's difficult. And I think at night time, like you say, keep the book at the side of you, whatever it may be. write stuff down, how you feel, read it back the next day, and go, yeah, I was in there. I can't remember feeling like that, but you did. And I think that also gives you, it reiterates stuff in your brain where you can then process stuff again and go, right, okay, tonight I'm going to make a conscious effort, or even say to yourself, I'm going to time myself out today so that I get a good night's sleep, or stuff that can make sleep can be a massive thing as well. It can really, if you've got sleep deprivation, it can add to the weight of whatever you're going through. So that you made a good point with the nighttime stuff. I think that's important. That's when it got me the most.
Yeah, so true, man. Like, I wish I would have thought about in my car this morning about my day, like paying for the parking. Got a ticket, didn't I?
Oh dear, that's not a great start to the day. Nobody wants them.
The thing is, it wasn't a good start to the day, but I did notice it. I had a really good day at work, and then when I went to my car, I was like,
oh dear, the little yellow sticker, yeah.
Human.
Well, at least you had a good day, and
yeah.
So
I didn't let it be the highlight. No highlight for me. But yeah. Something that's coming to my head is about at night time, because this is how I sense. Do you know how, like, you make a choice, you take action, like you said about writing things down, but I think this is how addictions happen as well. And we try and lose ourselves, I guess, in that moment, like when you're in a dark place, no one goes, oh yeah, I love this, right? This is freaking brilliant. Like, everyone doesn't like it. So I think there's that escapism. You mentioned about football, and we have these unhealthy addictions, don't we? And you said earlier about gambling and stuff, but I don't know, like, I guess that's where it can happen for blokes ultimately at night time, where they can become addicted to things that can be toxic for them. I don't know what you're thinking about that. I just,
yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, obviously, my release was football, but you can't really get dressed in your kit and go. I mean, you can go for. I used to go for a run sometimes, which would help stimulate my head a little bit to make me switch off and stop my head going around in circles. So, Paolo's very good at that. He keeps himself active, going to the gym and stuff. And so for me, sometimes I go for a run at like 11 o'clock at night, or I go and do some press ups or something, and just to kind of take that away, just to stop them thoughts coming in, and you just do something to, obviously bad addiction would be gambling, drugs, alcohol, whatever it may be. So, I've been in that bracket, I've been there. So I try and make a conscious effort now, like I said, keeping myself busy with football. Like I said to you, most evenings I'm out at the moment. I see my family, I've got a day job in the day, so I work a lot, but it helps me to keep myself going in the right direction in terms of where I want to get to. So, I was going back to when I lost my mum, lost football. I also forgot to say I got made redundant all within about a month and a half of each other. So you said it come in threes. So, to process all that at the same time, then I was worrying about my family, and it just got way too much. So by doing stuff like this, for me, working with different age groups of footballers, helping them to try and get to their goals, it gives me a bit of, a sense of, not satisfaction, I'd probably say a little bit of solace in terms of I'm doing the right thing, and it's giving me happiness to see them go on and do well. So I don't do it for any other gain other than seeing them go on and do well, and it gives me, happiness to see that. So,
do you think, like, there's been a development with, football in any area of life, but, like, let's just speak about football and just be real about your experiences. Do you think there's been a development in terms of nurturing, like, the next generation about, it's not just about football? Like, I used to get told when I was at Peterborough and Forest, like, football's like 90% attitude, 10% like actual playing football, but that was it in terms of, like, the mental side of life. Is there anything that you do, like at Mansfield or at Long Eaton, or anything that you've seen in the FA in terms of?
Yeah, there's a big drive on players' well-being now, not just on the field but off it. You have a total care to that player, that individual. They call it the four-corner principle. So you have, like, social, physical, mental. I suppose the definition of fitness is a complete state of social, physical, and mental well-being. So I think there's a big focus on that now, and I think the pressures of the game, if you do make it to the top, are so high. You have to prepare these young players now, and the financial side of it. I earned a lot of money when I was at Nottingham Forest when I was younger. I went to America to play. I earned a lot of money, and thankfully I didn't do what other footballers do and be too extravagant. So I put myself in a position where I was okay. But I think you have to understand that these are human beings first and foremost.
Yeah.
They're not robots. They're going to have bad days, and I did it sometimes when I played, and you'd have 10,000 people on your back calling you all the names under the sun, but they didn't know I was going through, my mum was battling cancer and I was going through a bad time myself. So I'm expected to perform under that pressure. And mentally, I was no way in it. I was snapping at my teammates. I would have them up by the throat in a changing room. And I just want myself. And I think people don't really know, a lot of football fans that watch football, first and foremost, they're human beings. And I see some of the abuse some of them get. And, Wayne Rooney is a perfect example of one of the greatest players we've produced in a long, long time. The abuse that guy got and still gets. And, they're human beings at the end of the day. And he might be going through bad times. And, I think it's good to understand that they are doing something now, the FA, and it's really, really, they're on the money with it in terms, especially the younger age groups, and the support that they give the men now is good. Obviously, it relies upon you reaching out for that help sometimes, because they won't know that you're struggling, but they have people in place in clubs now where they have well-being officers, and they have to fill that out on the system every day. And yeah, just stuff that if there's any abnormalities in the players, they can pick it up on.
I think the whole business side sector of society needs to get on board with this. I think that employment laws, and I think it's getting there, but I still don't think it's quite there in terms of what you're saying about having welfare officers and stuff, because I think people genuinely have mental health issues, or they've got ill mental health and they're struggling. And I think they get punished more than someone who pulls a sickie. And I'm like,
yeah, I probably agree with you. Yeah. Like I said, it's a stigma in this country where we feel it's shown as weakness if you have got a mental illness problem, and everyone's got different levels of it. It could be something really mundane to start with, but that might grow into something a lot bigger, 6 months, 12 months down the line. And I think it's important to recognise that, and it's helped me do it going through it myself. I now recognise it, and I try and be a lot more patient than I was, and a lot more compassionate than I was, and it's changed me as a person going through that experience. And I think if I can help people do that, and recognise it, and just say, I had a footballer a long time ago. He sat down in front of me. It was at non-league, and he just broke down. And I said, listen. I told him, I said, I was like that. It's not a failure for you to do that. It's actually probably the bravest thing you'll ever do. The courage that you've shown to actually go, yeah, I'm struggling, is the hardest thing to do. We can all sit there and say, oh no, I'm all right. That's the easy way out. The hardest part is to admit to yourself, and like you said, take ownership, and he's come on leaps and bounds from that moment. So I just say to people, like you say out there, it's not if you're suffering, it's okay to be suffering. It's not wrong. It's not right. It's just you need to take you take them steps and just admit to strangers, people that anybody, guy walking down the street with his dog, I'm struggling. It's amazing what that can do for you, and I'm living proof of that. So
yeah, it is liberating when you finally admit it, and it's back to what we said about the acceptance denial thing. But I always think that when we finally tell the truth about what's going on in our head, as you say, it's so liberating. We want to encourage people watching this, don't hold it all in, don't bottle it up, because sometimes, as Deaks knows and I know, when you're going through things, you almost feel like you're the only one, so then people won't understand. But you'll be surprised. I feel like this, Deaks, where I've opened up about my life, and I don't like doing it to too many people. I don't recommend it because it can be a bit, you need to find people you can trust. But I always find they won't understand, but actually people are a lot more empathetic than we probably realise in our minds when we are struggling. Because I don't know, I feel like our judgment can be off, with what we're thinking and feeling. because we
Yeah,
are struggling.
yeah. I mean, if nothing else, 2020 has kind of proved that where people do come together, and there's people that, there's going to be. I think it's important as well that this is an important time because there probably will be a lot of fallout of being locked down for so long, and the NHS have put services back. Obviously concentrating on the COVID side of things, but I think if any, and also on the flip side, people have come together a little bit more. Streets have come together, communities have come together a lot more, and I think it just proves that if put in a crisis or a precious situation like we're in, an unknown situation, which mental health is, you're going into, you kind of don't know what's going on, and you don't know if that's right or that's wrong, and you're questioning yourself all the time. Speaking to somebody, you'll be surprised that they will understand. That's not, I can't speak for everybody, but I'd probably say 99.9% of people would understand and help and reach out and help you. So
in terms of your setbacks in your life, can you share with the viewers what you can control? Like, just share about what we can control, what we can't control. Because I feel like in life we get so caught up on what we can't control. So can you share with people, like, to encourage them when they're watching this, when they're trying to get back up from a setback, what you can advise them in terms of what they can control themselves?
Yeah, so obviously speaking from my past experiences, being told that you're not good enough by someone playing football, you can control your emotions. You can't control opinions on what they think of you. All you can control is your emotions, how you bounce back from that, your mentality in terms of your mindset going, okay, I'm either going to prove him wrong or agree with him and say he's right and go, okay, maybe football's not for me. But I'm probably saying most people would go the other way and say, I'm going to prove somebody wrong. You can't control other variables that, like I said, people's opinions, it might have been the wrong time, the wrong place, injuries, that kind of stuff for me. They're quite big setbacks in football because they can get you down. But I think, you can control what you do, how you think, and be intrinsically, nobody can take that away from you.
So
they're the things that you can control and you've got ownership of. And that's probably what I would say to get yourself moving forward again.
Yeah, man. And it's the same with anything. Like, you've mentioned football, but it's the same in marriages, relationships, family, even your workplace, your superiors at work. Like, you can't control what they're going to think or say about you. It's all right. I think I'm creaking through.
Well, you're all right, Carmelo. You can come in.
So it's brilliant. We had the last few episodes, actually, there's been like little photo bombs, and I think last one we had a dog. It's brilliant. So don't worry about it.
Hectic at the minute with a 6-week-old little girl. So
congrats! I didn't know it was that young.
Yeah. She was born on the 2nd of July. So just over. Yeah, so it's a bit hectic at the minute. So that can also add pressure into whatever's going on. When you put that in the mix. But I think you just got to take a deep breath, assess it, and just go. Yeah, we can move forward. And no matter how bad it gets, you can always move forward.
I love that, man. Take a deep breath. People take the mick out of that, though. They go, oh, yeah, just take 10 deep breaths. And they proper, like, dig it out. I'm like, no, it actually works. When you chill, and it's that's not the bloke thing to do. But when you actually stop speaking, stop being negative, like, just, like, pause everything and take deep breaths. It freaking works. It does. Big time. Mindfulness.
Yeah.
Focus on the now. Stop freaking summing up everything that's against you.
I think that's the best piece of advice anyone ever gave to me was, you can't control what's going to happen in the future. You can shape it. You can't control the past is done. There's nothing else you can do about that. What you can only control is the second or the moment you're in right now. And I think that's the most important piece of advice anyone gave to me, because you can own that. You can't own the past or the future just yet, but what you're doing right now is what you can take ownership of. And I think that was the best piece of advice anyone ever gave to me.
Yeah, that's massive. I only found out that kind of revelation the last year or so, because I'm always, I'm that guy that's never really early for things. So I like go to things like dead on the clock, because I hate the fact that I'll be sitting there for 5-10 minutes waiting for it to start. I'm like, well, I've just waited 5-10 minutes, like sitting there, when I could have been doing something else. I'm always like on the go. But the problem with that is you can procrastinate and you can forget things, and also, like, you're never at rest. So I want to say to viewers, like, try and live in the now, as Deaks is saying, because what you'll find is your mind's at 100 miles an hour, and you can forget things like me doing the parking.
Yeah.
And you can also just not enjoy the present moment. So like right now, me and Deaks are talking about men's mental health. We're trying to give you guys some tools from Setbacks, but you know, Deaks could be thinking about, oh shoot, I need to spend time with my missus. It's late, it's Friday night. This is the only time we get together. And that's important. Don't get me wrong. You know, same with my wife's waiting as well. You know, I'm thinking, oh, I've got to get up early for work tomorrow. I actually have tomorrow myself. But again, that's that trying to control things that are not yet in your control. You've just got to focus on, right, let me enjoy now.
Yeah, most definitely, mate. And you see all the best athletes in the world do it. Talking about deep breaths, if they've got a big penalty kick to take, Ronaldo take a big exhale out and they go right and they settle themselves and move forward from that point. So I think the breathing technique for me, definitely, I've done it before. The kids are screaming, you know, you're stressed out, you're coming home from work, everything's like, you know, high voltage, and you just like take a deep breath, let it all out, negative energy goes, and you can carry on, you know. And I think it does work, like you said. I think that's a big thing for me. What it does for me, it obviously does for you. So
yeah, and it's true. And the worst thing you could probably do around the next generation, around your own children, we don't want to say this to the viewers to get them guilt tripped and make them feel like they're awful parents, because no one's perfect. But if you're doing that, if you recognise now as we're having this chat, and you're the one that just can't live in the now, and the one that explodes and then lets it out on your kids, not on purpose, by accident, and you think, oh, it's too many times. Well, take the advice, just literally stop, pause, ask the children, just, can you please just wait for 1 minute? We're all going to drop everything that we've got in our hands. We're going to stop and we're going to take deep breath, and we're all going to do 10 deep breaths. And if I'm wrong and you've made this far in this episode, email us. It's coming up on the screen right now, or comment on the video below and tell me that I'm wrong. Or Deaks, I put it on the line there, aren't I?
Yeah, you put it on the line there. I'm sure somebody will.
Oh yeah, you always get a hater as well. You always get a hater. I saw a picture.
You can't do anything about that. There's certain people in the world that you can't do anything about. You just got, like I said, like you said, just do what you do. Do your thing.
Man. It came to my mind. There's a picture I saw on Facebook the other day, and it's do you remember the Ninja Turtles? The orange ones, Michelangelo. It was a picture of him just popping up from the road with a sewer cap on his head like that, and he's like that. And it says, "There's always one Facebook friend that pops up to just give you hate," and I'm just like, "That's life."
Social media can be a really positive tool, but it can also be a really negative tool. And I think, you know, like you said, there's always somebody waiting there to say something or jump on it. And luckily enough, I've got good people around me, so I've not got any of them. But there's always somebody wanting you to fail. But like you say, as long as you do your own thing, concentrate on what you're doing, look after yourself, and move forward, that's all you can. That's all you can control. So
yeah, man. Do you know what I want to say to you? You've done really well, bud. I've not given you template or nothing. You've just took the questions like a true professional footballer on camera.
To be fair, like I said, I probably spoke to you, and so there'll be a lot of people that watch this that know me will be shocked. To be fair, because I've spoke to close people about it and they know. But so for me, this was quite a big thing for me to do it, and a good friend of mine asked me to do it. Along with Paolo, who I known for a long time. So if I can share my experiences and most people that, like I said, that will know me, that I've always thought I've been a bit of a tough cookie. If I can get through it, it gives some hope to other people that they can. So, but yeah, it's a lot of people will be shocked when they see this that know me. So
it's all good, man. You've just epitomised the name of what we're about, Enlighten the Shadows. You've come out the shadows tonight on this episode. You've come out and you've shed light on your real tough times, man. I just want to say, I can't say I've respected you like before or anything, but when you meet a person, you give them a fair level of respect because they're a human being. But literally, you've gone up levels. Like to share to pretty much a stranger, myself, friend through a friend, through Paolo's his classmate, and I'm just really hoping that people watching this, mate, are gonna go, yeah, enough respect to him. So I'm going to do it too. I don't need to suffer in silence any longer. So thank you for that, man.
Yeah, if one person does that, it's one per. It's that's all. It's 1,000 to as many as we can. But if one does, that's great. So yeah, it's been a privilege and a pleasure to be on. So
yeah, man, it's been really good, and I'm sorry if I made it a little bit tricky at times with on the spot questions, but you smashed it, mate. And yeah, I'm sure the viewers will get a lot out of it in terms of getting back up from these setbacks in their lives. And we want to say to the viewers, we know Deaks has the football background, but you can apply, you can make specific all of the points he's made to your life. I know you can for a fact. So, get out those demons in your head, get out those ill negative thoughts that are saying, oh yeah, he's a pro footballer, it's all right for him. No. The guy has been through some stuff. He's put it on the line and he shared it. He's just like you. He's had problems in his life. So just try and start with what he said. Just write those things out. Get them out of your head, at least on paper. No one else can see them. Put it in a safe place. And then get some courage. Go to your closest mate, who not the one that's sort of freaking filled with the banter, because we know banter's good, but one that you can trust, that you do have banter with, but they're not going to spill out your stuff and make you look like a tool. Like, just share that stuff. Because you might not want to share it with your family, as we've said, like in fear of things, and that's cool. But get out of your head, lads, fellas. Just don't do it to yourself. Being struck in a prison that you've self-created, it ain't gonna work for you. You've got to press out. And if Deaks can do it from his experience, and I can do it from 3 bereavements I had in the last 5 months, and they're not like, oh, they're not a Deaks, they're not a friend of a friend, they're close people. And if I can do it, trust me, you guys can too. So yeah, man, Deaks, thank you for joining us, bro. It's class, and I'll let you get back on with your wife and stuff. But before we say bye to Deaks, guys, thank you so much. I know I spoke right in the camera to you tonight quite a lot and balanced it more half and half with Deaks, but it's really on my heart that I don't forget that there's people watching this, that I don't forget you're there spending time to get something out of this. So we want to say thank you so much. We hope you've enjoyed this episode 11. Come up on the screen right now. Click that subscribe button. I know you're thinking, oh, yes, yeah, I do. Because until we've got literally tens or maybe hundreds of thousands and people go, oh yeah, Rory Green, yeah, whatever. No, I'm not going up and I'm not shutting up until this gets so much clout so men stop being in those prisons that we alluded to. So click that subscribe button, like this video, please, and set up yourself an account for YouTube, because you can't do that unless you've got a subscribe button sorted. So it takes 1 minute, get that sorted. On the socials coming up right now, Enlighten the SH1. That will be on Instagram and Twitter. So yeah, thanks Deaks, mate. Appreciate you.
Pleasure.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Again, this is episode 11 with Ian Deakin. We're going to put Deaks in bracket because it's rocking. And we will see you next week for episode 12. Cheers. Bye-bye.